There is a code. This code is hidden only to him who won't see it. When eyes emerge, sight has a reason to exist. There's a code. It doesn't wait for the answer because the code itself holds an answer. Although it could be an esoteric or pragmatic thing, the code itself is the mind. It's the living chess piece, game, and players. The code represents what? The soul represents everything that creates Y. And Y represents the things in between that we call, thoughts, actions. But there is no code, and there is no mind, and there is no soul, except when one realizes that there is. This is like a very paradoxical thing because if one doesn't know, one does not know. Meaning that one doesn't choose to question that there can be life, and one can't be. The reason it's paradoxical is because the question itself is just a mirror. So what is that emergence? I think that sort of clarity comes after that, bit of the chess. It comes after a little bit of the lostness there. I don't feel if I don't understand there's feeling. And it doesn't mean in a knowledge way, and I do if it means that my body feels, but then you think about it. What would the code be? If the mind comes in the context of the body, why is the demonization of body from mind and soul so important? And of course that a distinction in that would be remarkably programmable. It's a good word for that. If the mind is the code, and there's an in-between from the code and the non-code, or like what gives the code a purpose or a question, then your body would be that. Because without your body, there's no emergence of thought in this form. And it doesn't mean a physical body. I'm just speaking about the emergence itself as a body. This body is, however, an emergence. Interestingly enough, the separation from the physical creates a little bit of a cloud. How does that take shape? How does a code become real? How does a thought become a thing? How does a thing get validated as real and a thought is not? And I feel like the isolating code or mind from the need for code or body or like the soul behind the mind as one creates that distance. And I know in my heart that three of code, mind, and body, code, emergence of what's in between the body and then the soul behind all of it, is that Trinity that we speak about. And you have the story of Neo, the one, and then the three, and this relationship of one and three. And it's like, okay, well, why is it, okay, yeah, it sounds a number, but what does it mean? And ironically, 13 tuned in. It's something where we have a choice. When there's two options, it's not a choice. When it's one option, it's a decision. But when it is three available realities, then you've done something right because you've gone beyond the dialectic. You've gone beyond the red and blue pill. So we have a responsibility to be graceful with the body. As like our mind has saturated the body, not just our physical body again, but the emergence of thought. And then like on a personal, well, the 1 and the 3 could represent a lot. Because you go from 0 to the ultimate. The emergence of 1, the division of 1, 2, the realization of 1, 3. And then we go on to 4. A lot of people talk about 4 as tetra, the 4th, which is like a direct reflection of that code. What could like the emergence of thought mean if it's kind of somewhere in there? I think what a very simple way is being said is that, thank you, is that one is the emergence of a question. A question emerges at 1. It doesn't emerge, a question emerges, maybe not the best word. A question becomes present at 1. A question is divided at 2, meaning it's answered, or another question. And we always think of chaos as the deterrent of what we believe to be pure order. But the reality within the 1 is kind of balanced in the 2. So the question is 1, the answer is 2. But every answer, because of the nature of this mind, is not an answer, it's another question. It's as if someone says, "How are you?" and you say, "Good." This is not an answer, it's a question. How is it a question? Because you're seeing it as an answer because there's a period there. But there's no period, there's just a question. Even the question mark is not really alluding really to what a question could be. That symbol only reflects what a question is. Every single statement, if it's seen as a question, actually leads to gnosis. And the idea of gnosis versus knowing, gnosis and knowing versus knowledge is that 3 versus, the 2. I don't think the 2 is understood and appreciated enough, to be honest, though. And they talk about Amen and the emergence of the 1, and that's very celebrated. Of our tomb. When our tomb emerges from the noon represents the divine 0. Amen represents the divine 1. Apophis represents the divine division, or the divine reflection, or the shadow. Ra represents the divine 3, the resolution of the 1 and the 2, the completion of the 1 and the 2. And you go on to 4 again. We're seeing something that we can't know it. We can only question really, really well. We can be knowing of it, but to know it would mean you've really murdered it to know it, because knowing is the illusion in the form of stagnation. Knowing as a state of being is the freedom. And my mind goes to another place. Why do words dictate reality so much? And my understanding has been in this, words return to 0 after they become silent. So when you say a word and it returns to 0, that's when it becomes silent. After if I say, and then a bit pitchy, dog. No, but and I'll release it. That silence is what they call the ashe, the amen, or whatever. That silence is the thing that completes it. That's the completion. The closest thing we have to a period is silence.